Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolute masterclass of survival and tactical brilliance from a prisoner who, let's be honest, has zero physical advantages. We're breaking down a terrifyingly tense scenario, stripping down the nuts and bolts of a seemingly impossible escape. Our subject, Tyrion Lannister. He's trapped in one of the most maddening prisons ever built, and he has to rely entirely on his wit, his nerve, and his deep understanding of how people tick.
So, here's the puzzle we're looking at today. How does a starving, battered captive manage to literally talk his way out of the impregnable Eyrie? It's a fascinating case study in creating leverage out of thin air. I mean, think about a time you felt totally powerless in a negotiation. Now imagine you're stripped of your wealth, your family's armies are hundreds of miles away, and your physical strength is practically non-existent. What weapons do you even have left? Well, as we're gonna see, a sharp mind can sometimes cut way deeper than any sword, even when the deck is stacked impossibly high against you.
God save me, the blue is calling. This chilling little message was left on the wall by a previous tenant in what looked suspiciously like blood. And man, it perfectly sets the psychological stakes for Tyrion here. It really highlights the insidious nature of this specific kind of imprisonment. You see, the captors at the Eyrie, they don't just want to hold you, they want the environment itself to break your mind. The sheer emptiness, the screaming wind, and that terrifying constant lure of the drop. It all creates this persistent psychological torture designed to wear down even the strongest will.
Section 1. The Impregnable Sky Cell, Surviving the Eyrie's Dungeon.
Let's talk about why the Sky Cell is literally designed to drive men mad. Imagine this, not 5 feet away where a proper wall ought to be, the floor just ends and a 600-foot drop of empty air begins. You've got freezing wind tugging at you with gusts as sharp as talons, day and night. And worst of all, the floor slopes. Just ever so slightly, but it's enough that you're terrified to close your eyes, afraid you might roll over in your sleep and wake up in sudden terror, sliding right off the edge. And physically, Tyrion is miserable. He had this thick, warm, shadow skin cloak that smelled of blood and mold, but his jailer stole it the second he laid eyes on it. So Tyrion is freezing, every joint is aching, and he's practically starving on these meager meals of boiled beans. It's a nightmare.
Section 2. Bribing the Brute. Overcoming the Jailer.
This matchup right here perfectly illustrates the extreme physical gap Tyrion has to overcome. Since he can't win with force, he absolutely has to bridge that gap with his mind. Look at his jailer, Mord. He's 20 stone of gross stupidity, with brown, rotting teeth, small dark eyes, and the left side of his face is just slick with scar tissue where an axe took off his ear and part of his cheek. He's predictable and ugly. Tyrion, on the flip side, is small, physically fragile, and nursing a bloody mouth. A physical confrontation is a guaranteed death sentence, so Tyrion has to shift the battlefield from physical dominance to psychological manipulation.
So how do you manipulate someone like that? Well, Mord likes to play this cruel game. Even though Tyrion is starving, he'll confidently ask for a leg of lamb, some peas and onions, fresh bread, and mulled wine. But Mord just holds a plate of beans out at arm's length, right over the edge where the cell ends and the sky begins, taunting him with, "Is here, dwarf man." He's just waiting for Tyrion to reach for it so he can give him a quick shove with his heavy white belly and send him falling. When Tyrion refuses to play the fool's game and backs away, Mord just opens his thick fingers. The wind flips the plate, spraying beans back at them, and Mord laughs, his gut shaking like a bowl of pudding. Tyrion ends up cursing him out, calling him a pox-ridden ass, which earns him a brutal steel-toed boot hard to the ribs. But here's the genius part. Tyrion uses this. He knows Catelyn Stark wants him alive, meaning Mord doesn't dare actually kill him. Tyrion absorbs these beatings with a lever strap just to get Mord to listen to his promise of gold. He uses that one tiny sliver of leverage.
And it works because Tyrion figures out something absolutely crucial. Mord possesses a superstitious reverence for the written word. By writing down his promise of riches, Tyrion expertly exploits this illiterate brute's awe of writing. Think about it. A verbal promise of gold means nothing to a guy who's probably been cheated his whole life. But paper and ink? To Mord, that's basically binding magic. It's a total masterstroke in reading your audience. This written promise secures Mord's cooperation, which lets Tyrion send the exact message he knows will appeal to Lady Lysa Arryn's vanity. He says he wishes to confess.
Section 3. The Mock Confession, a pivot in the High Hall.
Brought before Lady Lysa Arryn's torchlit court in the dead of night, surrounded by hostile knights, Tyrion pivots from a desperate victim to a full-on theatrical showman. Lady Lysa is sitting there all in blue, powdered and perfumed for her suitors. But instead of admitting to the actual accusations, Tyrion starts listing out all his ridiculous personal vices. I mean, he's talking about gambling, cheating, laying with whores. He knows the singer Marillion is right there in the room and will definitely spread this story. By treating this austere court like a tavern audience, he draws outright laughter from the assembled lords. It instantly deflates the tension and is a direct, embarrassing blow to Lady Lysa's authority, turning her face a burning pink. He totally takes control of the narrative right in front of her.
But then, Catelyn Stark steps in and reminds everyone of the real charges: conspiring to murder the Hand of the King and sending a hired knife to slay Bran Stark. The second this happens, Tyrion drops the comedy act completely. He flatly denies the charges. He establishes a very clear boundary, basically saying, look, I've confessed to being a flawed, vile little man, but I absolutely will not confess to murders I know nothing about. This sharp pivot sets the stage perfectly for his ultimate legal maneuver.
Section 4. The Legal Loophole. Checkmating the Eyrie.
Outraged by his mockery, Lady Lysa threatens to throw him right out the moon door. She smugly intends to let her rheumy-eyed 6-year-old son pass judgment. This kid is literally sitting on a carved weirwood throne, needing fat cushions just to lift him up, clutching a doll, and asking his mother, is he the bad man? It's a completely rigged game. So, Tyrion plays his trump card. As a highborn lord, he legally demands a trial by combat. He roars out to the hall, showing the bruises Mord left on him, and demands that the gods, not a biased 6-year-old, judge his innocence. The beauty of this move? It's completely unassailable. In this society, denying a highborn lord a trial by combat would be a massive violation of ancient custom and honor. He literally traps Lysa in the very laws she claims to uphold.
Section 5. Finding a Champion. The Climactic Stand.
Of course, this brilliant legal maneuver shifts the burden of justice, but it also means someone actually has to fight on Tyrion's behalf. Let's look at how this plays out. First, dozens of knights clamor to fight for Lysa, eager to kill the imp. She chooses a seasoned captain, Sir Viridus Aegon, who actually protests the shame of fighting a lame dwarf. So Tyrion, very reasonably, demands his brother Jaime be sent for. Now that would take weeks, buying him precious time. But Lysa arbitrarily denies the request, forcing the fight to happen the very next day. She breaks the unwritten rules of fairness, thinking she's just checkmated him right back.
So Lysa says, name your champion, imp, if you think you can find a man to die for you. Tyrion looks out over this totally hostile, silent hall of strangers, and for a terrifying second, he wonders if his bold strategy was just a colossal blunder. He quips back that he'd sooner find a man to kill for him, but no one moves. It's this moment of profound, heavy isolation. His gold is miles away, his intellect has run out of runway, and he is staring down the barrel of having to hobble into battle against a heavily armored knight.
And then, in a sudden twist, Bronn the Freerider steps forward from the shadows and says, I'll stand for the dwarf. Tyrion's tactical gamble actually pays off. You see, Bronn isn't a Knight of the Vale. He's a sellsword. He's driven by practicality and profit, not honor. Tyrion had been observing Bronn this whole journey. That constant dangling of Lannister gold, the exact same tactic he used on Mord, finally hooks a much bigger fish. Bronn recognizes that standing for the dwarf is a high-risk but incredibly high-reward investment.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating final question. When physical power holds all the cards, is a sharp strategic mind the ultimate weapon? Think about it. Tyrion started the day freezing in a sky cell, being kicked in the ribs over a plate of boiled beans. But by refusing to accept that physical reality is the final word, and by expertly reading the greed of a jailer, the vanity of a lady, and the opportunism of a sellsword, he completely reshaped the board. It forces us to ask, in a world obsessed with walls and armor, is the ability to understand and manipulate human nature the only truly impregnable defense? Thank you for exploring this with me in this explainer. I really hope it leaves you thinking about how leverage can be created, literally, out of thin air.